Chapter 16. The pad didn't work. I pressed it and punched it and kept yanking at the heavy door handle, but it just wouldn't give. I was trapped. I didn't know how long the air would last. This place was sealed off like a bomb shelter. The air came from an independent supply somewhere on the other side of one of the safe house's walls. I had to use my head. I couldn't afford to panic. Turning on my pen light, I went to the locker with the stun weapons. It didn't take much to learn how they worked. They were shaped like rifles, with barrels that were long metal tubes. There were 4 levels of intensity and a trigger to set the weapon off. One squeeze of the trigger and electricity flared along the barrels, a flow of white, searing sparks. I used a weapon's handle to batter the lock panel off the wall, exposing a mass of wires and metal leads. I shoved the barrel in and squeezed the trigger. An explosion of white light and a ripping jolt of electricity sent me flying back. The lights flickered for a second, and I heard the roar of the generators. Then the room was dark and silent again. My hands were tender, like they'd just been scalded. I used my elbows and knees as I got up and fell against the door. I hadn't heard the clicks of the lock. Drawing a deep breath, I stood back and pulled at the door. It opened. Fresh, cool air flooded the dark room, but my relief disappeared fast. The hatch was open up above. Raptors could have gotten in. I didn't see anything in the small hallway, but it was dark and would have been pitch black if not for the little bit of golden light coming in from above. It was dawn. I took off my shoe and used it to keep the door open. Then I went back to the locker and got the other stunner. I had it set and ready, propped against the table. I tore off my poncho of leaves and slipped on the protective gear I'd seen. It was hot, the pads were thick, and there was enough room in the jacket for 2 of me. I pulled it tight and used some straps with buckles I'd found to keep it close to my body so it wouldn't limit my movements. There were safety goggles and a helmet too, kind of like a football helmet with a grid over the face. The pants were way too big, too roomy and too long. I tried using my knife to cut through the pants, but I couldn't pierce the fabric. That was good, considering what I had in mind. I filled my pockets with the tear gas canisters and slung my bag over my back. At the door, I got my shoe back on. I must have looked like that kid in A Christmas Story whose winter parka was so bulky that when he fell in the snow, he couldn't get up. But I could move. I had to. It was the only way I'd survive. I left the safe house with the small but really heavy generator. I kept the stunner under one arm and awkwardly climbed to the top with the generator. I nearly fell twice. I thrust the barrel of the stunner through the open hatch. Nothing tapped it. Nothing got curious. I climbed out and saw amber and red streaks low in the sky. The sun could only barely be seen between the branches of the trees in the east. The iguanodons paced nervously. I spotted Iggy and slowly walked his way. I didn't make any sudden or threatening movements, and none of the bigger dinosaurs tried to stop me. I stopped before Iggy and hoped he would hold still for what I had in mind. He looked at me suspiciously. Then I took out the last candy wrapper I had left. He recognized the scent. My scent. I had led him to food once. I hadn't hurt him, and he'd saved my life. He made the mournful cry I'd heard last night. I thought of Ben and made the same sound in return. He came a little closer. "I can't carry this thing," I said as I set down the generator. "Not if I'm going to get us out of here." I pulled a long length of cord from my bag. "I know you don't understand a word I'm saying," I said, "but, I just need you not to get freaked here, okay?" Iggy just kept watching me. My heart was thundering. I saw movement from the raptors on the ridge. The big one with the red rings was making some kind of hollow sound. "Okay," I said. "I'm talking to a dinosaur, and it's not even close to the craziest thing I'm going to do today." I draped the cord over Iggy and pulled it around. A couple of the bigger iguanodons came closer. They towered over us. I put the generator on Iggy's back and secured it with the cord. 3 more iguanodons moved in menacingly, protectively. Good, that's what I was counting on. "They said birds are all that's left of the dinosaurs," I told Iggy in a sudden burst of nervous chatter. I tied another cord in place, then another. My dad would probably say that was crazy. The other iguanodons were surrounding me now. I tried to see past them to the raptors on the ridge. He has this thing about playing it safe. He doesn't know much about adapting to change, and my friend Ben, he just expected the world to change for him, and it did a lot of the time, just not when he came here. I stepped away from Iggy. "Adapt or perish," I said. "That's what Dr. Grant said it all comes down to. I think that's what's going on with the raptors. There's too many of them, too many meat-eaters, and not enough meat. They're going hungry, so they trapped you guys to pick you off a little at a time, but they're not smart enough to see there isn't enough food for all of you. When you get sick, when you starve." I knew what would happen, but I couldn't say the words. The war would come. The big battle I thought I was going to see last night, but by then it wouldn't be a fight, just a slaughter. I turned away from Iggy and slowly moved away from the herd. I walked toward the ridge where the alpha male raptor stood. There was a nice easy slope right there, perfect for Iggy and the herd to travel up to get out of the valley and find food again, if they were willing to fight. I was gambling my life on what my instincts were telling me, that they were willing to fight. I set the stunner for the maximum charge and headed toward the gathering raptor clan.